Is there a big sign that an AEW star is heading to WWE? We'll talk about it. Plus, we have an update on Bobby Lashley's WWE contract, and the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, passes away. It's all in the Cultaholic wrestling news right now. We'll start talking about the Lucha Brothers, who are seemingly on their way out from AEW. Big sign that that is happening has occurred in the last few hours.
There's been some rumblings here and there. There was a couple of drips and drabs, but now it feels like there's something's amiss.
Sean Ross Sapp says that Ray Phoenix, well, he started this saying Ray Phoenix has withdrawn from a September independent booking. New Era Wrestling, who had booked Ray Phoenix, have now commented on their Facebook saying Ray Phoenix will be unable to participate in our Lucha Libre event on September 27th due to personal circumstances. We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause, as it is beyond our control. However, we remain committed to delivering the finest Lucha Libre experience in El Paso. We will assure you of this promise. Please stay tuned for updates regarding the event lineup. Phoenix being pulled from that show is seen as a clear indicator that they're getting set to go elsewhere.
Look, it could be something purely innocent. It could be that there's commitments that need to be taken care of that aren't, they're pointing toward what everybody's reading into it as. But it tends to be that when you get talking to WWE, when it comes time to ink the deal, you are often allowed to make certain dates, but by the time you're a fully fledged on TV talent, that kind of has to stop.
And it seems and that is what a lot of people are reading into with this particular move. Penta and Phoenix's AEW contracts reportedly set to expire, and they've reportedly been very open about the fact that discussions with WWE are beginning. So,
well, we're at a point where there's two companies. It used to happen in the 90s. You'd go and you'd sort of talk to everybody, you'd get offers, and then you'd compare the offers and go from there. So all power to them on that front. By all means, go see what other companies would be willing to front up for you, right?
Similar situation with Bobby Lashley. His impending WWE departure has been a big talking point over the past week or so. Looks like the end is near for Bobby. Fightful Select saying those we spoke to in WWE during SummerSlam weekend were under the impression that Bobby Lashley would be leaving the company and that there were no creative plans for him in the company moving forward. We can confirm that he's been discussed backstage in AEW since word of his contract status emerged. However, no offer has been made as Lashley remains under contract. Where does Bobby go?
If Bobby goes to AEW, I'm excited. I want to see Bobby Lashley. When he went to TNA, he sort of reinvented himself at the same time doing MMA, developing quite a strong record in MMA, which allowed him to parlay that back into an all-new side to Bobby Lashley we'd never seen when it came to Impact Wrestling. And then obviously he came back to WWE off the back of that. But at the same time, I feel like he's somebody that with the right partnerships, with the right storyline, you can really capitalize on a lot with him. He seems like he's willing to do a lot. He seems like he's willing to go whole hog when there's something there like ready for him, right? Because he's a massive guy. You need to put him in the right situations, but he'd be an interesting one for me in AEW.
I think so. I think you put him with MVP wherever they go.
Yeah.
I think you do that. Currently, MVP is in the UK, by the way. Lovely video on his Instagram of him in what looks like a spoons, enjoying a Newcastle Brown Ale.
Good lad.
Newkie Brown boy.
Newcastle
MVP.
Brown Ale. It's not Newkie Brown. It's Newcastle Brown Ale. Half pint glass. Don't drink it out of a bottle. And Americans with it on draft, you're up a wrongin'.
I didn't mind the draft brown ale.
You're up a wrongin'.
Well,
half pint glass out of a bottle. That's it.
I have been told as such. But the bottle, but he was drinking out of the bottle. You might have to take that up with MVP.
I'm going to have words, Mr. First IWGP Intercontinental Champion. Mark my words.
Oh, he was, wasn't he? MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin. Find those three a home.
Look, putting that team back together is just, it's instant excitement, right? So please.
That will be a thing. We'll keep an eye on Bobby Lashley's contract status with WWE at cultaholic.com. Sam, it's heartbreakingly fitting that it's you and I covering the news. We do the Cultaholic Classic Nitro review every Thursday. We're watching episodes of WCW from the very beginning. And the news is broke in the last hour, time of recording, that the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan, has passed away at the age of 74, broken by wrestling historian Barry Rose. What a legacy the Taskmaster leaves behind.
There's almost too much to talk about, but just to give some kind of background on Kevin Sullivan, if you're maybe a newer fan or you're not so much aware of Sullivan, he was born on October 26, 1949. He never officially had any real wrestling training initially, picking up what he knew through watching it on TV. Debuted in the 70s as Johnny West, but fans would go on to recognize him best as Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, definitely. NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions took a chance on him. He formed the Varsity Club in JCP alongside Mike Rotunda and Rick Steiner. He'd go up against Rotunda with a new faction in Sullivan's Slaughterhouse, which is sort of forgotten about in the annals of his career.
Him, Cactus Jack and Buzz Sawyer, replaced by Bam Bam Bigelow. He'd then go on to form other alliances with the likes of One Man Gang and Black Blood. And when his now WCW contract expired in 91, he went to Japan to compete for FMW, returned to the States to throw a fireball in Brian Lee's face in Smoky Mountain. He was also part of ECW in the early 90s, where he won tag team gold with Taz when he was the Tasmaniac.
You forget about all these little intricacies in between the times in the NWA and in WCW. He came back to WCW and formed the Dungeon of Doom and the Faces of Fear, the Alliance to End Hulkamania.
One of the most, it's fair to say, probably infamous teams of the time. Very much a product of their time. Very cartoony, very over the top, very simple goals, but gave us some absolute gold moments with Hogan and the Fountain, where it's not hard. And he's still there, just doing his best to kind of live up to the Sullivan character that everybody knew, and keep it as grounded as he could with the team.
He then would go on to feud him and the Dungeon of Doom as the members would chop and change throughout. They become a little bit more rooted in reality than people like Meng with his golden spike.
There was no more go into like this parallel dimension where they lived, because they lived in a parallel dimension.
I miss those days. But he would feud with the Four Horsemen, with he and the Dungeon of Doom, and it would lead to two very line-blurry storylines. The one being against Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
I respect you, Booker Man.
Which is sort of, at the time that was like, oh my God, what did he just say? And then, of course, the one that most people will know and will remember, the storyline with Chris Benoit, where Kevin's, at the time, wife, Nancy Sullivan, would begin having an on-air, in kayfabe affair with Benoit, where about at that point right now on the Nitro review, we're in the middle of this storyline, and it becomes, for the Kevin Sullivan character, it's very hard for him, and it's, you sort of see him stripped away and become a bit more human. And it's just the story of his wife leaving him for somebody else, and that would then go on to actually happen in real life. It
would be art imitating life in that one. He'd lose a retirement match to Benoit at Bash at the Beach 97, and from there he'd focus full-time on booking behind the scenes, and his role within the creative team would change. He'd be head booker for some time.
But he was there till pretty much right at the very end.
I think he got released just before the buyout from WWF, so he was there for the longest of times. And then he popped up in he made some sporadic indie appearances. He appeared in Raven's Clockwork Orange House of Fun match in TNA in 03, just popping up as you do. And you forget about his Ring of Honor stuff as well.
Yeah, he was managing BJ Whitmer and Punishment Martinez, Damian Priest.
So I think that's where Damian Priest got his spookies from.
Well, this is the thing with Sullivan is, if you really go back and you look at the turning point, was when he became kind of the devil, right? When he became like the satanic character, and people hated him. Like, he was like legitimately hated and feared. And it was at a time when, satanic panic was running wild in the States, and he just capitalized on it. And he was able to almost see that was going to be a huge thing that he could capitalize on in storyline, and he became like a monster, like sort of like a proto Wyatt type sort of figure, where it was just like, whoa, like, is this guy actually a Satanist? Should we be allowing him to wrestle? Look at what he's done to these poor like people that are now part of his team. He's corrupted them all, sort of like the Ministry, right?
Yeah, it's just an incredible mind for it, and he's been pouring out his mind onto ad-free shows. He's been doing Tuesdays with the Taskmaster very up until recently, and earlier in the year he was involved in an accident, and multiple complications after surgery following that accident affected his ability to function independently. A GoFundMe was set up by his family to help cover some of the costs of the treatment that he was receiving, but we had the news just a short while ago that he has indeed passed away. There's so much much that it's a career unlike any other. It is a bespoke career for a guy like Kevin Sullivan. I mean, do you have obviously we've gone through so many of them there. When you think of Kevin Sullivan, what comes to your mind first?
It's probably all the kind of Satanist stuff. The more I've gone back and had to look, because I do a lot of the historical content on the channel, right? So it's in and around matches. Like you need footage of a certain person, but they're up against Sullivan while he's there and he's all painted up and he's just looking wild. But at the same time, probably because it's fresh in the memory, I think like the humanization of him during the initial phase of the Chris Benoit and Nancy storyline, I think it's a bit underrated.
I think it's underrated. Yeah, I think
and of course the Dungeon of Doom's colourful and ridiculous and spooky, but it gave us King Curtis screaming like Sullivan, and it's like it's great.
I know there'll be a lot of hardened fans that will go, "Why aren't you talking about the matches in FMW? Why aren't you talking about the bloodfests he had in the late '70s and the early '80s?" I actually quite like Dungeon of Doom. Thought they were a bit silly.
He's one of the last greats from that era, right? And this is sort of the sad thing is we've lost another person from that golden age.
We at Cultaholic extend our condolences to the friends, to the family of the late, great Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan. For the latest wrestling news throughout the day, check out cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.